Hello and welcome to Uplingua, our 30-day challenge, Spanish edition, day number 1. It's our goal to have you at basic conversational level at the end of 30 days. The most important part of this challenge is logging into the platform and engaging in conversation and practice every single day. Once you're done with your 30-day challenge, you can continue to do that and build to a level of fluency in each language. That being said, welcome to Uplingua, a 30-day challenge, Spanish, day number 1. Let's get right into it. The way these 30 days work, it's pretty simple. We're going to introduce you to some basic rules that help you convert words in English to words in Spanish. We're going to start out with the easiest rule. It's the OR words, or what we're talking about here is words that end in OR. And the spelling to convert from English to Spanish is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is a little bit of the pronunciation because, of course, the words and the letters are pronounced a little bit differently in Spanish than they are in English. But once you get the hang of it, the conversion is going to be very easy. Let's jump right into it with a few examples and let's practice the pronunciation and help you convert your first words from English to Spanish. Color. Now, as we mentioned before in our general rule, the spelling stays exactly the same. Color is spelled exactly the same way it is in English as it is in Spanish. The pronunciation, however, changes a little bit, just like I promised. This is pronounced color in Spanish. The O is pronounced, rather than the O being pronounced it's pronounced O. Color. Now we're looking at the word actor, which is spelled exactly the same way in Spanish, but again, just like the other word, pronounced slightly differently. We're pronouncing it in Spanish actor, actor, not act or act. It's almost as if the A is pronounced more like an O in October. Act or actor. Conductor becomes conductor. El conductor. Conductor, spelled exactly the same way it is in English as it is in Spanish, but pronounced conductor. Doctor, spelled exactly the same way, just like all the words we've looked at so far, but pronounced doctor. So the Spanish word for doctor is doctor, and it's spelled exactly the same way it is in Spanish as it is in English. Error is error. Now this puts into play the Spanish R, which is quite possibly one of the hardest sounds for an English speaker to make. The word here is error. The R is a rolling R. Error. Favor, spelled exactly the same way, just like we promised in English and in Spanish, but it becomes favor. The A is pronounced more like an A rather than an A, or rather than A as it is in English. So instead of favor, we have favor. Tractor becomes tractor. Remember the first word we did, or one of the first words we did was actor. We're just adding the the TR. It's pronounced tr in Spanish, tractor. Professor becomes profesor. Here we have a perfect example to use a different rule that we tend to follow in Spanish. We don't like double consonants. Spanish likes to be spelled the same way that a word is pronounced. So professor has one S sound in it. It's profesor. If you had the double S sound, it would be professor. which is not the correct pronunciation. So we remove the second consonant. That's a general rule for almost all Spanish words. There are a few exceptions, but we'll get into those a little bit later. Professor becomes profesor, and we drop the second S. Inventor becomes inventor. The I is pronounced E. Inventor. 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 Interior becomes interior. The I again, the initial I is pronounced more like an E. Interior. Interior. Exterior. The exterior is exterior. Exterior. Superior becomes superior. 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 Inferior becomes inferior. Inferior. The I again, the first initial I, is pronounced as an E. Inferior. Now let's look at words ending in AL. Again, English words are the same as Spanish words, so they're spelled exactly the same way. We just have a minor difference in pronunciation. Let's get into a few of these examples and let's help build your vocabulary in Spanish. Animal. Animal becomes animal. Animal. Again, we have the same exact spelling, just a slightly different pronunciation based on the sounds the letters make in Spanish. Animal. The A is generally pronounced A. Animal. Criminal becomes criminal. Remember, the I is pronounced as an E, so we have cri rather than cri. Cri, mi rather than mi. Cri, mi, and nal rather than no. Criminal. Canal becomes canal. 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 The A again is pronounced A. And you have two of them, so it's canal. Central becomes central. 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 Commercial becomes comercial. Comercial. Here we have the double consonant, but you can hear it in the pronunciation. It's comercial rather than comercial. So you have two M sounds. So in pronouncing it, you simply extend the M sound. You do comercial. Legal becomes legal. Legal. Remember, the E is E and the A is A. Legal. Legal. Local becomes local. Local. The O is pronounced O and the A again is A. So you have local. Musical becomes musical. 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 The M-U-S can be pronounced like the animal, moose. 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 The I becomes an E, moose-E, cal. Musical. Natural becomes natural. 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 Personal becomes personal. Personal. Rural becomes rural. Rural. We have that pesky Spanish R with a roll. Rural. 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 Social becomes social. 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 Intellectual becomes intelectual. Intelectual. You remove the second L because, as we discussed, Spanish generally doesn't like having the double consonants. But there's another little bit of a trick here as well. The double L usually has a j sound in Spanish. So if you had that second L, this wouldn't read intelectual anymore or intellectual. It would read interjectual. Artificial becomes artificial. 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 Now we're into our absolute favorite portion of every single video, and I'll mention that every single time because it really is. It's a good opportunity to practice. It's conversation time. Now we're going to ask you to listen in on a very brief conversation, and we're not going to expect you to know any of it, or perhaps you will know some. That'd be a great start. But that being said, we're going to address all of it in a little bit and explain to you most of the words in this conversation so that as you move on to session number 2, you'd have some grounding and readiness for it. Hola, es Carlos. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien, ¿y tú? Muy bien, gracias. Me gustaría invitarte a comer cuando estás libre. Estoy libre mañana. ¿A qué hora te gustaría encontrarnos? Vamos a encontrarnos a las 1 de la tarde. ¿Te gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de tu oficina? Sí, me gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de mi oficina. Perfecto, nos vemos mañana. Adiós. Adiós. Now we're going to break into little components, some of what you just heard right now. Let's introduce some of the words. We have hola, hola, which is the Spanish word for hello. It is a very common word, and it's one of the few words that most people, even though they don't speak Spanish, already recognize. Let's break it down a little bit. First of all, we have the spelling, which is H-O-L-A, but if you hear the pronunciation is hola, the H is silent. That's why we've blued it out for you here, making it stand out so you realize the H is generally silent when it's the first letter in almost any Spanish word. You have other words like talk, which is habla, which starts with an H. And again, you don't hear the H. Here also take note that the O is pronounced O. O. Hola. Hola. Buenos días. Buenos días is good morning. It's another one of those very common things that most people, even though they don't speak Spanish, might already have heard. Now let's do an exact translation from buenos días to good morning to English. In fact, bueno means good, singular. Buenos is plural, as you can see. In Spanish, we also use the S to make things plural. Dia is day, and that's pluralized as well. So, in fact, if you're translating this directly, it actually would translate to goods days. Now, the reason for that is we're distinguishing good morning from good day. It would be fine to say buen dia, which is good day. That would be an appropriate translation when you're saying goodbye to someone or you're wishing someone that they have a good day. Now, that would not, however, translate well if you're saying good morning, because ultimately they would be so similar. So I believe that the basis for the use of the pluralization is simply to distinguish the good day from good morning. So you have buenos días. Buenas tardes. We already know buenas is good because we have it from buenos días. The difference here is that this is buenas. It has an A, so it's feminized rather than bueno, which is masculinized. Now, interestingly enough, you'll only have the morning as a masculine time of day. The remainder of the day will be feminine, so you'll do buenas or buena when you're talking or describing that portion of the day. So the afternoon, which is tarde, you say buenas tardes. Again, you're pluralizing. You say buenas tardes. So in fact, that would translate more to goods afternoons, but that is used as good afternoon. Buenas noches. Noches is night. Now we're saying good evening. Buenas noches. Good evening. Same rule applies. It's feminine, so we have buenas rather than buenos. Noche is night, and we're pluralizing that. So it becomes buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo is how? Estás is are you, your state is being asked. How are you? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Estoy is the response to estás. Estás is you're being asked your state. Estoy, you're stating your state of being. Estoy bien. I am good. Y tú, and you. The letter Y is pronounced like the English letter E. And it also is the equivalent of and. So when you say y tú, you're saying and you. Muy bien, gracias. Bien is good. It falls into sync with buen, buenas, bueno, which we've already looked at. Muy is very. Muy bien is very good. Gracias is again one of those words that most people already know, even if they don't know how to speak Spanish, but gracias is thank you. Muy bien, gracias. Very good, thank you. It's a very appropriate response when someone asks you how you're doing. ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. How are you doing? Very good, thank you. Okay, let's go through a bit of that conversation once again, see if your understanding is increased a little bit. Hola, es Carlos. Repite, repeat. Hola, es Carlos. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? Muy bien, gracias. Repite, repeat. Muy bien, gracias. Now, do you feel you understood that a little bit better? I hope you did, because now we're going to ask you to respond to some of the prompts that we've already looked at. Hola, es Carlos. What was the appropriate response here? Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Good day. How are you? Estoy bien. ¿Y tú? I'm good. And you? What's the appropriate response here based on our conversation? Muy bien, gracias. Very good. Thank you. Me gustaría. I would like. I would like. Me is I. Gustaría is would like. Invitarte. Invitarte. Invite you. Invitarte. Comer. Comer is to eat. Comer. Comer. Let's look at the O and the E for pronunciation. The O is pronounced as O, and the E is pronounced as E. So it's comer. And you have that rolling R, which we're going to start practicing from right now. Comer. Comer. Cuando. Cuando is when. Cuando. 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 Libre. Libre. Libre is free. Libre. The L-I is pronounced as if in English as if it were L-E-E. Li. Li. Then B-R-E, bre, would be pronounced similar to the commencement of the work break. Bre, bre, libre. That would be the Anglican pronunciation. The B, we pronounce it just a little bit softer in Spanish, so it'd be libre, bre. And a huge impact here is obviously that rolling R, which affects the pronunciation. So let's focus in on that and practice that a little bit. Libre, bre, 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 bre. Mañana, mañana. Now, if you have the N with a little squiggly line above it called an accent, or the accent above that N, the N is pronounced as if it were an N-Y, N-Y. It's actually literally called an N-Y. Mañana, mañana, tomorrow. Mañana is tomorrow. Now, once again, let's repeat the second portion of that small conversation. Me gustaría invitarte a comer cuando estás libre. Let's break that down a little bit. Gustaría is I would like. Me gustaría, I would like. Invitarte, invite you. A comer, to eat. Cuando, when, estás libre, are you free? Let's repeat that now. Me gustaría invitarte a comer cuando estás libre. Estoy libre mañana. Estoy is I am. Libre is free. Mañana is tomorrow. I am free tomorrow. Estoy libre mañana. Let's repeat this. Estoy libre mañana. Now it's your turn to respond. Same with the prior prompts. Let's take a look if you remember what our appropriate responses were. Me gustaría invitarte a comer cuando estás libre. Let's break that down one last time. Me gustaría, I would like, invitarte, to invite you, a comer, to eat. Cuando, when, estás, are you, libre, free. When are you free? I'd like to invite you to eat. When are you free? Estoy libre mañana. I am free tomorrow. Estoy libre mañana. Que, which is what, and hora could mean two different things in Spanish. It could mean hour or time. So you could say, ¿qué hora would mean what time. ¿Qué hora could also mean what hour, which ultimately means exactly the same thing. However, you could say, por una hora, for 1 hour. Either way, hora can mean either time or hour in Spanish. Here we have ¿qué hora? So the question is, what time? Vamos, vamos, vamos. Many of these action words in Spanish that end in os, there's usually a pretty easy rule to follow. Os usually means you're included. It's a group. It's multiple. However, you are included in that group. So vamos would mean let us, or we are. Vamos, it's a description of what a group of people is doing, and you are included in that group. Encontrarnos, 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 encontrarnos means to meet up. Now you look at the os ending, as we just discussed, that means it's going to be a group of people or more than one person, and you're included in that group. Now you have the beginning of the word encontrar. Encontrar actually translates to find. Find. So encontrarnos would literally translate in English to find ourselves. So it's usually a meetup, a meeting, people getting together. The literal translation of find ourselves is not something that's commonly used at all as a definition in Spanish. It usually is just a description of a meeting. You're meeting someone. Encontrarnos. Restaurante. This should be a very easy word for English speakers to pick up. It's restaurant with an E added, and as a matter of fact, we're going to have a rule later on converting ANT words from English into Spanish, which are all generally converted just by adding an E to the end of it. So restaurant becomes restaurante. Restaurante. Cerca. Cerca. Cerca is close. Now, if you see, the C at the beginning of the word is pronounced like a S, se. But the second C is pronounced K. So you have cerca, cerca. Me. It's a very easy word for English speakers to pronounce. Imagine it's simply spelled M-E, me. Like I like me. Me means my in Spanish. So you would say me and you add something that belongs to you. Mi dulce, my candy. Mi fill in blank descriptor here. tú means your. Tú is your. So you're describing something that belongs to someone else. If you're commenting on someone's shirt, you're commenting on someone's shoes, on someone's anything, you'd use the word tú. Now, tú is informal. We'll look at some formal conversation a bit later, but usually it's the most commonly used word for you or your. Oficina. Oficina is office. Oficina is office. Nos vemos. We will see one another. Nos vemos. We will see one another. Nos is we. Vemos is will see. We will see. Adios. Again, a very common Spanish word that most people are already exposed to. Adios is simply goodbye. There is a bit of a issue here with regards to translation. If you're looking at the literal translation, a is to and Dios is God. So the actual literal translation from Spanish to English would be to God, which somehow they've made that goodbye. But that is the typical Spanish goodbye. Adios. Okay, let's look at some of the sentences we've already seen. Let's break them down and practice repeating them. ¿A qué hora te gustaría encontrarnos? ¿A qué hora, at what time, te gustaría, would you like, encontrarnos, to meet up or to find ourselves? To meet up. What time would you like to meet up? Repeat, please. Repite. ¿A qué hora te gustaría encontrarnos? Vamos a encontrarnos a las 1 de la tarde. Vamos, let's go. A encontrarnos, find ourselves. Let's go find ourselves, which means let's meet up. A las, at, 1 de la tarde, in the afternoon. Let's meet up at 1 in the afternoon. Vamos a encontrarnos a las 1 de la tarde. ¿Te gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de tu oficina? Let's break that down and then let's practice repeating it. ¿Te gustaría, would you like, encontrarnos, to find ourselves or to meet up? Would you like to meet up? En un restaurante, in a restaurant. Cerca, close. So far we have would you like to meet at a restaurant, close, de tu oficina, to your office. Would you like to meet at a restaurant close to your office? Let's practice repeating that. ¿Te gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de tu oficina? Sí, me gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de mi oficina. Sí is yes. Me gustaría, we know, is I would like. Encontrarnos is to meet up or to find ourselves. Yes, I would like to meet. En un restaurante, in a restaurant, cerca, close, de mi oficina, or of my office. Yes, I would like to meet up at a restaurant near my office. Let's repeat that. Sí me gustaría a encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de mi oficina. Perfecto. Nos vemos mañana. Adiós. Perfecto. Perfecto is perfect. Nos vemos. We'll see each other mañana, tomorrow. Adiós. Goodbye. Perfect. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. Repite. Perfecto. Nos vemos mañana. Adiós. Adiós, which is, of course, just goodbye. Repite. Adiós. Adiós. Now, once again, let's practice your responses to the prompts we've just been discussing. Now it's your turn to respond. Let's do it. ¿A qué hora te gustaría encontrarnos? At what time would you like to meet up? Your response should be, vamos a encontrarnos a las 1 de la tarde. Let's meet at 1 in the afternoon. Vamos a encontrarnos a las 1 de la tarde. ¿Te gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de tu oficina? What's the appropriate response here? Now, you should have said, sí, me gustaría encontrarnos en un restaurante cerca de mi oficina. Would you like to meet at a restaurant near your office? Yes, I would like to meet at a restaurant near my office. Perfecto. Nos vemos mañana. Adiós. What's the best response here? That's right. You should have just said adiós or goodbye. Thank you for joining us on day 1 of 30 on UpLingua 30-Day Challenge. Now, our next step is going to be log into our platform at www.uplingua.com. There, you'll have the ability to communicate with other people, take small group classes. You can also simply practice your language skills with other members that are also learning just as you are. Some of them are on day 1, and some of them are quite much further ahead. So the purpose of uplingua.com is to have a community to help each other as learners. So as you progress, you'll continue to get more advanced communication from your fellow students, as well as perhaps be able to assist others as they commence their language journey. It was a pleasure speaking with you today during UpLingua's day 1 of 30. We look forward to working with you much more. Now join our community and become a part of our global language community.